Alright guys, we have a Mercedes 2012 E350. I'm gonna show you how to replace your thermostat. In my case, I am replacing the thermostat and the upper hose right here that goes to the radiator here, and also the lower hose because they're both leaking. They have corrosion around their connections right here, and they need to be replaced. In my case, this would be easier for me because this hose is not going to be in the way, but the way you replace this thermostat is you pull, first of all, okay, before all this you need to remove those two air filter vents out of the way. This cap that's over here, right here, and also you need to remove the bottom engine shield here, because you need to use an oil pan or a coolant pan right there to collect the coolant, because if it's not bad, you can still reuse it if you use a strainer to clean the coolant. If not, you can use a new one. And always remember, always use OEM coolant on these German vehicles, otherwise you will destroy the engine. So the way you open these is they have these pins, this metal pin that surrounds the connection, and what you do is use a flat screwdriver to open it, to release. This thing has lots of rust actually in my case, but anyway, it's opening. You can actually remove it if you want. It's not a big deal, to help yourself. So in this case, I'm going to open it and just leave it here. It'll open, then it'll stop at some point where these things stop right here. And then in order to open this, there's a metal, it looks like a cap right here, and you have to use a flat screwdriver to actually open this, to remove it a little bit, because otherwise this is stuck. It's going to be stuck hard, because there's a seal here, right here. There's a seal that actually seals this hose with this metal cap to the thermostat housing. So I'm actually still trying to take this out. As you can see, it's giving me a hard time actually, because this metal covering is actually kind of bending in places. So it's because there's rust inside, and the seal, the rubber seal, is stuck big time. Again, I would recommend you replacing this, because I'm not sure after you try to open this, and you can use a screwdriver, and you're gonna need to use a second hand to shake this up and down, left and right, to open this. If it opens, then you may be okay. You won't need to replace it. In my case, I am replacing this anyway, so I don't really care what's happening to this hose, but it's still giving me a hard time. So I'm gonna try to work on this, and then we'll keep going. And it's gonna be the same way for this one too. It's the same thing. It has this metal cap. You have to separate it from the radiator, but in this case you have to be more careful because you can break the radiator plastics. So I'm gonna keep going with this until it opens. Unfortunately, this thing wouldn't come out as easy at all, or what I've done before, because of the corrosion. And you can see what's going on inside. When this corrosion is this bad, you have to replace this thermostat housing. You have no choice, because you're gonna have to clean this aluminum with a metal brush, and I'm not even sure if even if you clean it that you're going to be able to install this or back if it's the one that you have used. Or in my case, I know that I'm destroying this because I'm replacing it, so I'm gonna end up replacing this thermostat housing most likely. And unfortunately, in my case, this I had to take some drastic measures and use the screwdriver and a hammer. Hopefully this is not going to be the case with the one at the radiator. Probably most likely not, because it's already kind of wiggling, so it should come out much easier. And remember, you have this hose here. Be careful with these because they break. I mean, they're very brittle, especially if they're old. So we're gonna use this, we're gonna do the same thing here and just lift up this metal pin or lock. In this case, yeah, you just have to lift it up in order to unlock. And come on, there we go, and it should just come out. There we go. This is the way this should have come out there, but because of the rust, you know, that's why I had the problem. So this is what it looks like, and that's the seal. These seals will leak when they're old. That's why you have to replace these hoses at some point, especially when you see coolant getting around those hoses. So I'm getting the coolant out, and I need to disconnect this piece with this. Have to lift up this carefully. See, the plastic is already coming apart. It has a little seal in the front, this little rubber seal. That's what seals this hose to the coolant container or coolant tank. And the way you take this thermostat is you have this bolt up here, and then you have a second bolt down here. This is the small one here, and you have to disconnect this to the thermostat sensor, and that's the wire right here. But you can do it after, it's not a big deal. It'll be easier for you to do it after you open the thermostat housing. Okay, to take the housing out, we're using the inverted Torx size 12, and you may have to push this a little bit on this pump. There you go. This is one. It's one bolt. And then the second one is down there. It's the upper one. Get it off. Okay, it's probably going to be stuck, so you're gonna need a screwdriver to release it. And so just make sure that you press somewhere that you have some metals that you can press. Or I believe they have a, yeah, this is what you need. It has a special place that you can kind of press right here. It's a step so you can release it. Yep, there we go. Take it out, and remember the sensor. In my case, the sensor got touched by the belt when the belt was getting destroyed, and you have to push this pin out, the small gray pin, because it serves as a lock. And you have to push it out and then press in order to open this. I unlocked it here and then I pressed it down, and what you need to do is you need to press this plate here, this inside thing here, right here, and push it up away from the sensor. That's how it'll open. So this is the old one, I believe. Yeah, the sensor will come out with this anyway, so no point of cleaning or whatever I told you, forget about it. This is the new, we have the hoses and the new thermostat, and the thermostat is gonna come everything ready to go, brand new, so it'll fit perfectly. Remember, there's a trick when you install this. Because of this gasket, it has a metal gasket right here, so you have to mount the bolts and you have to guide your thermostat with this gasket mounted to the bolts first. And I would advise you to put some grease on here where the gasket is going to touch, and also grease here because this thermostat is going to go inside and seal, so you need to use some grease here. But first, before we install this, we're going to need to clean the surface. As you can see, we have leftover from the old gasket, so this has to be cleaned. And the way you clean this is use a metal brush on a drill or any other tool that you can use this metal brush, and you just start using it and cleaning it. So before you proceed to install, make sure that this gasket is the proper way, and make sure again you clean the surface. I actually had to use even a razor blade. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, there's a little bit more right here. Yeah, just make sure you clean everything, because yeah, right here, all of this is going to end up on the gasket and it's not going to seal. So the surface is ready now. It's clean, and this gasket goes in a very specific way, only one way. Make sure that these little pins right here on the gasket are facing toward the thermostat housing. Because of the design of this seal, it'll only fit this way, and anyway they actually will hold the bolt, or the gasket is going to be held by the bolts when you install it, because it's going to be a tricky installation. You have no other way of doing this. And you see the ridge is actually, this ridge right here on the gasket is facing the engine. Before you install this, I will put a little bit of grease on both sides, and also make sure you put grease on this seal here. This is a rubber seal right here. Okay guys, the way you install these, as I mentioned, you have to install the bolts first and the gasket on top of the bolts like this, and then you need to guide the bolts in the holes in order for this gasket to stay in place. There's no other way to install this, and you can use the extension with the inverted Torx to help yourself. Okay, because there's not much space here, as you can see, to use the inverted Torx, I've actually found it a trick. Sometimes I use an 8mm on these sizes of inverted Torx, and I'm just gonna use it to install the bolt as much as I can. And then what you can do is get it tied by hand. I'm going to use the electrical tool first. Then I'm going to get it tied by hand. Okay, according to the information that I have here, these bolts are, the torque power is 8 Newton meters. Again, I'm repeating, 8 Newton meters. That's not a lot, so I'm gonna make sure that I get these tight, maybe a little bit more than 8, because I want to make sure that this doesn't start leaking or it doesn't come out. Because the gasket is going to get squashed, and I'm not sure if 8 Newton meters is going to do the job. So always check these tightening Torx numbers, and in this case I don't like this 8mm, so I'm going to do it a little bit more. And this is so far. Make sure you don't forget to clip the actual sensor wiring for the coolant sensor, and all you do is just get it in there and make sure you clip it in. And make sure that it gets in and it's actually clipped in. clip the gray pre-piece. You need to push it in order to make sure that this is actually clipped. It goes in a very specific way. I think because this was already broken, I just need to make sure that it's clipped. And it won't come out. Yep, it's clipped. So in our case, this gray piece broke because the belt broke some of the plastics, but the way you do it again is just you press it back and it'll clip very easy. And this is it. Also make sure before you install this hose you grease up this surface here so it helps you with the hose. Okay, the thermostat housing is already installed. In order to install the upper hose, make sure this lock is in place again, and only goes in one specific place from top to bottom. Like I mentioned before, make sure to help yourself smudge this with grease and smudge both of these seals before you install them, because that will help you tremendously. You have no idea how much this helps. And again, these locks, these grooves they go in a specific place only, like on the sides you have the guides. That's where actually this metal locks. It locks into that metal pin in those ridges. And all you have to do in this case, because you already have the grease, you just push it and that's it, done deal, nothing else. And the same way you do it for this one here. Make sure you have good amount of grease on the seal and the thermostat housing. And all you have to do in this case is, because the new one has the pin installed, the locking pin already installed, all you have to do is just you press it and this is it. It's locked in. You can push the pin just in case, but it is locked in. And the last piece is this thing here. Again, grease on the little seal here, just a little bit of grease, and make sure you push it in to lock it. I need to take the pin out because for some reason it's not locking. So here you go, put it in, and then you can use the pin on top to install it. I need to use my two hands because this is not helping. But you get the point. You just slide it through. And in order to vacuum this system, because you cannot just pour the coolant, I made another video where you need to use a special vacuum system where you actually create vacuum in the coolant system, and then you actually install, or the vacuum created with the tool sucks in the new coolant. And this is how you replace the thermostat and fill the coolant back in. So this is from me for now. Again, thanks for watching and please subscribe.